This channel has been established for visually impaired people. For the visually impaired people, voice narration and a written expression are also provided for the hearing impaired. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. The Dragonlance deities, also commonly referred to as gods, are the high powers of the fictional world of Krynn, where the Dragonlance campaign setting takes place. They differ from the gods of other dungeons. Chaos. Paladine. Lunitari. 27 Solinari, 3 Gods of Neutrality, 31 Chislev, 32 Gilean, 33 Lunitari, 34 Reorx, 35 Shinair, 36 Syrian, 37 Zivalan, 4 Gods of Evil, 41 Kamash, 42 Hidukal, 43 Morgion, 44 Nuitari, 45 Sargunas, 46 Takhisis, 47 Zaboim, 5 Mina. 6 references. Chaos and the High God. Chaos and the High God are the highest beings in the cosmology of Krynn. They are mysterious but widely credited with a role in the creation of the world. Chaos, originally known as Ionthas, was once the most powerful of the pantheon, second only to the High God. Although the High God claimed to be further above the gods than the gods were above the mortals, Ionthas tried to corrupt and control the world. When the gods created the mortal races, Chaos created the animals and, as a joke, endowed them with superior attributes than the mortals had, among them long sight, long life, exceptional hearing, powerful magic. The dragons in particular inherited almost all of these traits. Ionthas was eventually banished from Krynn by the High God, where he spent time in his own company and deluded himself into thinking that he was the true High God, that the world should be his. When the god Reorx came looking for a sliver of chaos to put into the grey gem, the equivalent of the clipping of a toenail or a few strands of hair, in Reorx's words, Chaos leapt at the chance and willingly put all of himself into the gem. The High God created the 21 lesser gods to be its servants in the plan for Krynn. When the mortals were created, Ionthas tried to take control of the world and its fate, beginning the All Saints' War as the gods wrestled for the fate of the mortals. One camp, led by Takhisis, held that mortals should be the slaves of the gods and tried to exert her influence to control them. The opposing camp, led by Paladine, said they should do as the High God instructed and guide the mortals, and realized that the mortals had the potential to grow, change and eventually become better and brighter than the gods themselves. This faction wrestled with the evil gods to stop them from gaining control of the mortals. The gods of neutrality took neither side, and did nothing more than tend their responsible areas. Eventually, the High God intervened and declared thus, "It is the High God," and they were all nothing compared to it. The High God it was pleased with Paladine and his fellows, for they adhered to the spirit as well as the letter of the High God's instructions. It was displeased with Gilean and his camp, for they adhered only to the letter, but it would permit them their seeming neutrality, even though all they did would be to the High God's purpose. And it was mightily displeased with the gods of evil, who sought to rise above themselves. However, it would permit them their efforts, for they made a balance with the other two, a balance that anchored the world, and the balanced could be changed, but the change must come from within, from the mortals themselves, and not be forced upon it by the gods. It stated that the gods of evil would ignore this and strive to enslave the world anyway, but it warned them that though they would try their mightiest to disrupt the High God's plan, all their efforts would only further it. The High God is virtually unknown to the mortals of Krynn, but Paladine says that the effects of its will are felt throughout the world. In the form of luck, to steer the world in the chosen direction. The High God is feared among all the gods. It seems that to say the High God's name in an oath is the most powerful oath a god could make. After Huma defeated Takhisis, he made her swear by that which the queen held highest, and she swore on the High God. This suggests that even though the evil gods work against the High God's plan, they fear it and respect it. Gods of good. The gods of good believe that teaching mortals to love order and law is the way to preserve the balance. Their combined doctrine is encouragement, nurturing, and love. They defend the world and mortals from evil, but usually through mortals themselves. The gods of good are led by Paladine until the War of Souls. Afterwards, they unofficially follow Mishakal, but have no true leader. They reside in the Dome of Creation, a plane of light and positive energy. The plane houses the essences of all the gods of good except Paladine, who is now mortal, and Solinari, who remains closer to the world in his white moon. Branchala, also known as the Bard King, the Song of Life, and the Songmaster, represents the godly power of inspiration. He encourages souls to rise to greater heights of happiness and beauty. He is the patron of music and poetry. He is closely allied with Habakkuk, and their followers often work together. Branchala earliest endeavors made a place of romance and esteem. Bringing art and song in Krynn's mortals, the elves hold Branchalla in high regard. In addition to his alliance with Habakkuk, Branchalla works with Mishakal. He can be at odds with Kiri Jolith, Mahire, and Paladine because of their lawful tendencies and Branchalla's chaotic ones. Among the gods of neutrality, he is closest with Sirian because of their joint interest in art and creativity. He opposes Kamosh, Hidukal, and Morgion the most. Among the gods of evil, his celestial symbol is the constellation Harp. Habakkuk, also known as the Fisher King, Skylord, and the Blue Phoenix, represents the godly power of persistence. He believes in the perseverance of the soul and its opposition to adversity for the greater goal. Habakkuk's interests are generally directed at animals of all kinds. He is the patron of rangers, hunters, and the natural cycle of life and death, abhorring things like undead. He also represents loyalty and obedience to the whole. He promotes persistence of truths that promote good. He has a strong presence in the world through patronage of good druids and rangers. Sailors and explorers also honor him, as he is sometimes called the god of the sea. In times of war and crisis, he directs his efforts towards the renewal of life. Habakkuk's closest ally is Branchalla and is also close with Mishakal, Paladine, and Kiri Jolith. He is closest to Chislev and Sirian among the gods of neutrality for their roles. In nature, he opposes Kamosh and Zeboim for their interference in the cycle of life. His celestial symbol is the constellation Phoenix. Jeff Grubb writes about the origin of Habakkuk. In the real world, Habakkuk, note the single B and the third K, was a prophet in the Bible, one of the 8 minor prophets. His book is a collection of oracles delivered against the backdrop of the Babylonian threat to Judah in c. 600 BC. Interestingly enough, the original Habakkuk was a bard, a temple singer. His book was on the subject of why a good God would allow the evil Babylonians to exist and thrive. Kiri Jolith, also known as the Sword of Justice and the Bison of Heaven, represents the godly power of henosis or unity. He encourages the soul to grow as a part of the whole in order to benefit from the strength of brotherhood. Kiri Jolith is the patron of soldiers and warriors who fight in order to defeat evil. He promotes courage and justice, and is the spirit of honorable battle. He is not a warlike god, however, but supports war when it is necessary to maintain integrity. He promotes strength of spirit in times of peace. He is the courageous spirit of bonds among mortals. He is the patron of the Knights of Solamnia, and his warrior priests lead the fights against evil armies and advise rulers. Kiri Jolith is close with most of the gods of good, particularly Paladine and Habakkuk. He has the least in common with Branchalla. He is the second most worshipped god of the Minotaurs, who also call him Emperor. Kiri Jolith is closest to Reorx and Shinare among the gods of neutrality, and is in opposition with Sargunas, his opposite in war, who has a more violent approach to battle. He also opposes Hidukal because of his lies and deceit. His celestial symbol is the constellation Bison's Head. Kiri Jolith's name was a partial reference to Jola of the Books of Chronicles. Mahire, pronounced Ma-Jairee, also known as Mantis of the Rose, Master of Mind, and the Dream Sender, the even-handed god, represents the godly force of discipline. Mahire believes the way for the soul to become better is through discipline and hard work. Mahire is seen as distant and separate. He encourages mortals to look within for enlightenment, rather than turn to worldly desires and material goods. He is friend and advisor to Paladine. He has few faithful compared to the other gods, but does have a following of monks. His influence on the world is constant but subtle. He often gives counsel to the other gods of light in times of crisis. He is appreciated by all the gods of good, advising Paladine, Kiri Jolith, and Mishakal. He rarely interacts with Branchalla or Habakkuk, and counts among the gods of neutrality Gilean, Shinare, and Zivalin his allies. He does not have any specific enemies among the gods of evil but responds to evil quickly. His celestial symbol is the constellation Rose. Mishakal, also known as the Light Bringer, the Healing Hand, and the Blue Lady, represents the godly power of restoration. She embraces the soul's wish to grow and to learn from mistakes. She is the patron of healing, motherhood, and restoring the lost. She actively works to make things right in the world and tries to rid the world of evil with her compassion. Mishakal is constantly loving and protecting to the world. Her nature sometimes conflicts with the violent conditions her faithful encounter, but she has a wide breadth of worship during times of strife. Mishakal was the goddess who restored the knowledge of the true gods during the War of the Lance. The cleric Goldmoon was given the blue crystal staff to restore the faith of the gods to the world. The teachings of Mishakal, taken up by Goldmoon, led to the discovery of mysticism when magic was lost after the Chaos War. She is loved by all the gods of good, and the gods of neutrality all hold her in regard. She is in opposition to every god of evil for the same reasons she is beloved by the gods of good. Every god of evil harms life in some way, and for that reason Mishakal opposes them all. Her celestial symbol is the constellation Infinity. Her name was taken from the character of Meshach from the Book of Daniel. Paladine. Main article, Paladine, also known as the Platinum Dragon, the valiant warrior, Fizban, and Draco Paladin, represented the godly force of majesty. He sponsors the soul's aspirations to rise to greater heights and to improve itself by following the example of others. He granted divine right to kings and rulers. Paladine sacrificed his godhood after the War of Souls to balance the death of his arch-rival, Takhisis. Paladine represented the power of redemption and righteousness can have on the world. He exemplified glory and victory. He was one of the first gods summoned from the beyond. He was the leader of the gods of light until the War of Souls. He furthered the High God's plan among those who follow the ideals of compassion and peace. Paladine lead the other gods of good through his example. Paladine responded to the demands of the king Periodically, who arrogantly demanded divine power, by casting a fiery mountain upon the world, causing the cataclysm. Paladine later took the form of the absent-minded wizard Fizban the Fabulous to aid the heroes of the Lance after the heroes ended their quest. He had come to like the name and told Tasselhoff Berfuta Kender that he would then on be called Fizban by Kender. Paladine was a patriarch of sorts to the gods of light. He was advised by Mahire and was the partner of Mishakal. Kiri Jolith and Habakkuk were also close to him. He honored Solinari by taking the form of a white-robed wizard during the War of the Lance. He respected the gods of neutrality with no special friends among them and opposed all gods of evil. His celestial symbol is the constellation Platinum Dragon. Paladine's name came from an earlier Draco Paladin and referenced his draconic nature and his patronage of paladins. Solinari, also known as the Mighty Hand, the Ivory Disc, and God's Eye, represents the godly power of magic used for good. He patrons wizards who use their magic with the ideals of compassion, protection, and foresight. As one of the creators of the laws of high sorcery, he upholds them vigorously. At one point he was the divine power of vigilance, but when he and his cousins in magic abandon the godly planes to be closer to the world, he becomes less focused on the progression of souls. Solinari guides the souls of good wizards to the beyond. At one point he dwells in the dome of creation but chooses to represent himself in the white moon of Krynn in order to watch over and protect magic. He promotes using magic for the good of all the world. He is friendly with Mahire, Habakkuk, Branchala, and Mishakal. He is saddened at Paladine's downfall and offered him his protection, which Paladine, called Valthonus, refused. His relations with the other gods is minimal, aside from the other gods of magic, Lunitari and Nuitari, whom he is especially close to and is also often seen with them among meetings of the gods. His celestial symbol is the silver moon. Solinari. Gods of neutrality. The gods of neutrality believe that mortals should exist in harmony with the world and make their own moral and faith-related decisions. That makes them both a distant group of gods and an involved one at the same time. They promote elemental and conceptual truths as principles alone rather than tools towards an end. They have a strong presence in their particular domains, and keep the world from being in a constant state of conflict between good and evil. The gods of neutrality reside in the hidden veil, with the exception of Lunitari, who resides in the red moon of Krynn. To be closer to her wizards, it is a place of both shadow and light which meld together in perfection. Chislev, also known as the Beast, Wild One, and World Mother, represents the godly force of instinct. She believes the soul grows by releasing thought and instinct, and giving in to primal urges. She is the power of the natural world and all things wild. She is at one with Krynn, and extends her wrath to those that abuse the earth. Chislev is racked with pain and suffering during times of war, and works in the current world to heal the wounds done to it. She is the partner of Zivalan, and maintains friendship with Syrian. She conflicts with Shiner and Reorx. Gilean grants Chislev knowledge, but he is at times overly intelligent for her. Chislev is regarded among all the gods of good, and opposes Morgion among the gods of evil. In particular, her celestial symbol is the planet Chislev. Gilean, also known as the Book, the Sage, and the Grey Voyager, represents the godly force of knowledge. He supports the growth of the soul through attaining knowledge and experience. He is the holder of the Tobril, which contains the divine plan of the High God for the world. He is the patron of sages, librarians, and scholars. He is the leader of the gods of balance. He supports free will and individual choice for all individuals of Krynn. He is one of the first gods to be called out of the beyond and is on equal power with Takhisis and Paladine. A legend of him states that the High God commanded Gilean to ensure his own existence by raising the soul of a mortal scholar who would one day become him. In an ontological paradox of sorts, that scholar is most likely Astinus, who watches over the great library of Palanthas and scribes all history as it happens until the Chaos War. Gilean is a mediator between the gods of good and evil, siding against the faction that threatens the balance. All of the gods of neutrality look to him for help and advice, and the gods of light often do the same in hopes he will side with The gods of evil manipulate situations to present Gilean with a case where he can only side with them, such as in the Chaos War where Takhisis forces Gilean to side with her Dark Knights, as they are the only chance that mortals can stand against chaos. His celestial symbol is the constellation Book of Souls. Lunitari, also known as the Veiled Maiden, Maid of Illusion, and Night Candle, represents the power of magic used for neutrality. She supports wizards who use magic in the name of balance, freedom, and curiosity. She seeks to preserve the balance of good and evil in magic. She was once the divine force of mystery, but she removed herself from the hidden veil and joined her cousins Solinari and Nuitari in order to give magic her closer attention. Her focus instead became the mystery of magic. She is said to have come fully born from the thoughts of her father Gilean. She resides in and represents herself through the red moon of Krynn. She tells to her faithful the secrets and discoveries of magic. She is close to Reorx, who sometimes helps her in forging magical artifacts. She, along with Reorx, conspires to trap chaos in the Grey Gym, which has led the other gods of neutrality to distrust her. She rarely interacts with the gods of good and evil, except for her cousins Solinari and Nuitari, whom she is especially close to, almost always being with them at the meetings of the gods. Her celestial symbol is the red moon, Lunitari. Reorx, also known as the Forged, the World Smith, and Tamer of Chaos, represents the godly force of creation. He desires for souls to grow through crafting and gaining skill. He is the patron of dwarves and gnomes, but also of all craftsmen. He is also followed by gamblers and rogues because they rely on their own talents to change the course of an event. He respects and encourages the power of mortals to shape, build, and produce. Reorx often takes the mortal form of a handsomely dressed dwarf named Dugan Redhammer. Reorx, at the behest of the High God, created the world of Krynn from the raw energies of chaos. He unknowingly encases chaos into the Grey Gym when he sought a bit of the essence of the higher deity to anchor the balance in the world, which later has dire repercussions on the world, releasing an aspect of hatred and destruction upon Ansalon, causing the Chaos War. He is a much-loved deity. He works with Shinair and Gilean, and is respected by Sargunas and Kiri Jolith for his power of smithing mighty weapons. Zeboim is known to go to Reorx to better understand the workings of ships and the like, so that she can better destroy them. The dwarves hold that Reorx created them as his chosen, however, Reorx creates the gnomes instead when a chosen group of men fall from his grace. The dwarves and the Kender are created when the energies of chaos morph a group of gnomes into the two races. His celestial symbol is the red star Reorx. Shinair. Shinair, also known as Winged Victory, the Silver Mistress, and Walking Liberty, represents the godly force of interaction. Those who follow Shinair grow by communicating with other people. She oversees all oaths, negotiations, and partnerships. She promotes the advancement of the world through enterprise. She patrons merchants, without regard to motivation so long as business is done fairly with that principle in mind. She does not condemn slavery or mercenary activity, things like theft and cheating, however, she opposes as they impair the principles of interaction. She secretly influenced the development of steel as the principal currency of Ansalon, and has recently become a major influence in the nation of Solamnia. Shinair is partnered with Syrian, whom she sometimes clashes with because of his chaotic tendencies. She works with Reorx as well, but has only basic, polite relationships with the other gods of neutrality. She is closest to Kiri Jolith and Mahire among the gods of light because of her belief in honesty and truth, and directly opposes Hidukal among the gods of evil because of his lies and cheating. Her celestial symbol is the planet Shinair. Syrian, also known as the Flowing Flame, the Alchemist, and the Firemaster, represents the godly force of transformation. He promotes the soul to give in to passion and creativity to grow and change. He represents fire, because it is the element that brings change and growth, and it represents the creativity of artists and alchemists. Syrian is chaotic, but does not condone random destruction. Instead, change should produce something new. He is the patron of art and alchemy. Legend holds that he created his partner Shinair from grand metals, and that he gave fire to Reorx for the creation of the world and truth. His responsibility was equal to the other gods. He is the companion of Shinair, although being her complete opposite. However, his passion with her progressive spirit can create much in the world. Syrian works with Reorx and Chislev, but does not often work with Zivalan or Gilean. Syrian is close to Branchalla Noah and Habakkuk among the gods of light, and opposes Sargunas among the gods of evil, for Sargunas directs flame into the spirit of wrath and revenge. His celestial symbol is the planet Syrian Zivilin, also known as the World Tree, Wise One, and the Tree of Life, represents the godly force of wisdom. He encourages the soul to grow by achieving enlightenment and wisdom. Zivilin's influence extends to all realms and to all times. He promotes understanding and spiritual awareness. Zivilin gives counsel to Gilean, bringing wisdom to Chislev as well. Zivilin, despite his extensive knowledge of all times and places of Krynn, cannot foresee Takhisis stealing the world away during the War of Souls. Zivilin is respected by all gods, and never chooses sides in a fight or disagreement. He is closest to Gilean and is the partner of Chislev, and has much in common with Mahire and Hidukal because of their understandings of the power of wisdom and awareness, respectively. Zivilin does not allow the forces of compassion or corruption to